Hi guys, welcome to another video. Today I'm going to be covering how I feed and gut load my feeder insects. So you can see here that I am unboxing a new bag of Messery Timothy based guinea pig diet, and that's not really my gut loading diet, it's a maintenance diet, and I consider the maintenance diet to be separate from the gut loading diet, but I'll explain that after you see my sort of cleaning process for my feeder insects. So I grind up the Messery Timothy based guinea pig diet in the coffee grinder, and I'm going to turn it into my own little recipe of a maintenance diet for mainly increasing vitamins A, D, and E in the feeder insects. I not only like to use this as a food for the crickets and dubia roaches, but I also like to use this as substrate for mealworms and superworms. And then I'm gonna mix them with some vitamins. So for mealworms and superworms, it's 1 10,000 international unit of vitamin A, 3 5,000 international units of vitamin D, 2 400 international units of vitamin E, and 1 500 international unit of vitamin B12. That was the last of the old Messery Timothy based guinea pig diet, so I'm going to use the new bag. Now for crickets and dubia roaches, I use 2 5,000 international units of vitamin D, 1 400 international unit of vitamin E, and 1 500 international unit of vitamin B12. I then add some bee pollen to the dubia roach and cricket diet, so then the diet has good palatability to it. I forgot to state how much I put into the silkworm and hornworm diet. So it's 1 5,000 international unit of vitamin D and 1 400 international unit of vitamin E and 1 500 international unit of vitamin B12 added to some silkworm chow. Then take the rest of the guinea pig diet and pour them into amber jars. That way they are protected from light damage and the vitamins inside the food stay as potent as possible. Alright guys, that's how I make the diet for the feeder insects. Now I'm going to explain why. This is the product sheet for the Mazuri Timothy-based guinea pig diet. Here's the ingredient list and some of the nutrient analysis, but go to the next page. You have a full nutrient analysis, and I really like that Mazuri does this. I'm looking at gut loading to enhance the nutrient content of insects as food for reptiles, a mathematical approach. This is an article by Mark D. Fink. In the abstract, it says, gut-loading diets for crickets, adults and nymphs, should be supplemented to contain the following nutrients: 51 and 32 grams per kilogram of calcium, 8,310 and 5,270 micrograms per kilogram of vitamin A retinol, 300 and 190 micrograms per kilogram of vitamin D, 140 milligrams per kilogram of vitamin E in its natural form, which is D-alpha tocopherol, 31 and 21 milligrams per kilogram of thiamine, and 20 and 10 milligrams per kilogram of pyridoxine. Gut-loading diets for mealworms should be supplemented to contain the following nutrients: 90 grams per kilogram of calcium, 51 milligrams per kilogram of iron, 31 milligrams per kilogram of manganese, 13,310 micrograms per kilogram of vitamin A retinol, 460 micrograms per kilogram of vitamin D, 660 milligrams per kilogram of vitamin E, again in its natural form, 5 milligrams per kilogram of thiamine, 650 micrograms per kilogram of vitamin B12, and 29 grams per kilogram of methionine. Gut-loading diets for silkworms should be supplemented to contain the following nutrients: 23 grams per kilogram of calcium, 0.7 milligrams per kilogram of iodine, 140 micrograms per kilogram of vitamin D, 70 milligrams per kilogram of vitamin E, and 226 micrograms per kilogram of vitamin B12. So in the Mazuri Timothy-based guinea pig diet, there's 0.40% methionine, there is 0.05 parts per million of iodine, 330 parts per million of iron, 118 parts per million of manganese, 34,218 international units per kilogram of vitamin A, 2,921 international units per kilogram of vitamin D3, and 143 international units per kilogram of vitamin E. Unfortunately, I find it very difficult to convert parts per million to the recommended amounts of iodine, iron, manganese, and I find it also difficult to convert percentage to the right amount of methionine. I think I pronounced that correctly. I keep on sort of getting it wrong, I think. But, yeah. And by the way, found the B12 just now. That is 25 micrograms per kilogram of vitamin B12. So for vitamins A, D3, and E, I'm going to be using the Dietary Supplement Ingredient Database's unit conversions. And this is going to be very handy for converting international units per kilogram to micrograms per kilogram. I'm going to start with the cricket supplement. 1 international unit equals 0.3 micrograms of vitamin A retinol. So divide 0.3 by 8,310 and I get 27,700 micrograms per kilogram, which is why I do not supplement any more vitamin A for crickets and dubia roaches, because they have more than enough vitamin A from the Timothy-based guinea pig diet. 1 international unit equals 0.025 micrograms of vitamin D. So divide 0.025 by 300 and I get 12,000 micrograms per kilogram. 1 international unit equals 0.67 milligrams of D-alpha tocopherol, which is natural vitamin E. So divide 140 by 0.67 and I get 208 or 209 if I round it. Now for mealworms, Mark D. Fink recommends 13,310 micrograms per kilogram of vitamin A. So divide 13,310 by 0.3 and I get 44,366. Vitamin D3 levels for mealworms is recommended to be 460 micrograms per kilogram. So I divide 460 by 0.025 and that gives me 18,400. Recommended natural vitamin E levels for mealworms is 660 milligrams per kilogram. So divide 660 by 0.67 and I get 985. Now for silkworms, recommended vitamin D levels is 140 micrograms per kilogram. So divide 140 by 0.025, that will give me 5,600. Recommended vitamin E levels for silkworms is 70 milligrams per kilogram of vitamin E. So I divide 70 by 0.67 and I get 104. And I'm just now remembering that I do not feed the silkworms the Masdari Timothy-based guinea pig diet because they need either, what are they called again? Mulberry leaves or mulberry leaf chow, commercial chow. So that got me confused at first because I was like, why do I need to supplement vitamin E? But yeah. Now for the gut loading diets. I explained earlier on in the video that the diet that you saw me formulate was not actually my gut loading diet. That was simply just a maintenance diet. A maintenance diet is a diet that's safe enough for feeder insects to eat for the rest of their lives because the calcium levels are low. In a gut loading diet, calcium levels will range between 6 to 8%, and will likely kill feeder insects within 96 hours due to calcium overdose. Strange enough, feeder insects seem to be able to eat as much vitamins as they want without really any negative effect on them, like if they were to eat a high calcium gut loading diet. Nutritionists typically formulate gut loading diets to alter the calcium to phosphorus ratio in feeder insects 1:1, and then the keeper can use a dusting supplement to again alter the calcium to phosphorus ratio 2:1. However, some gut loading diets are formulated well enough to the point where the keeper might not have to use a dusting supplement. Of course, these types of gut loading diets are rare, but on this table, one of these diets are supposedly able to meet up with all calcium, vitamin A, vitamin D, and vitamin E requirements just by gut loading, according to a study in Canada. I'll have that study that I'm talking about posted in the description. For now, let's get to the gut loading diets. First is T-Rex Calcium Plus, high calcium cricket formula. Nutrient analysis on this one is 19% protein, 6% fat, 2% fiber, 10% moisture, 40% ash, 28,000 international units per kilogram of vitamin A, 2,000 international units per kilogram of vitamin D3, 300 international units per kilogram of vitamin E, and 15 milligrams per kilogram of copper. So I've stopped using this because I think this is actually their maintenance diet, and they have this other diet called T-Rex Cricket Diet Dust, which actually has the recommended calcium for altering the calcium to phosphorus ratio in feeder insects, while this has a good amount of vitamins A, D3, and E. However, this is a small bottle, It's in a colored pellet form, which is okay for crickets and dubia roaches, but how would I feed this to mealworms and superworms and just other worms that don't eat pellets? And then that Mazuri Timothy based guinea pig diet, I can just get that in a much bigger bag. So yeah. Next is Rapashi Superload. So currently using this for the mealworms, and I'll explain why once I get to the Mazuri Better Bug diet. But hold on, here we are. Guaranteed analysis: 16% protein, 5% fat, 12% fiber, 8% moisture, 30% ash, and 9% calcium. So, good amount of calcium to increase the calcium to phosphorus ratio in feeder insects. However, in one study, the Mazuri did better for large crickets than the Rapashi. However, I should let you know that Rapashi did do better than Mazuri for pinhead crickets. So maybe for the people out there that feed their reptiles pinhead crickets rather than medium to large crickets, maybe consider this instead. But for me, with a leopard gecko and a tarantula with big insects, I decided to choose Mazuri. Next is Zukudla Cricket Max 2. This is the diet that will alter nutrients and feeder insects to the point where the keeper might not have to dust their feeder insects. Flip through this book for the analysis. 19.5% protein, 5% fat, 9% ADF, which I guess is ash or something, 7% calcium, 0.6% phosphorus, 53,000 international units per kilogram of vitamin A, 8,000 international units per kilogram of vitamin D3, and 1,300 international units per kilogram of vitamin E. So, again, I will give you guys the study from Canada that showed that this diet could increase nutrients in feeder insects to where the keeper does not need to dust the insects. I got 2 of these samples and just decided to show one on this table. Unfortunately, when these arrived, my gecko had decided to go into brumation, so it's going to be a while until I can actually give this thing a try. Finally, Mazuri Better Bug gut loading diet. 30% protein, 15% fat, 9% fiber, 12% moisture, 20% ash, 8% calcium minimum, 9% calcium maximum, 0.60% phosphorus, 0.60% sodium, 15,000 international units per kilogram of vitamin A minimum, 4% omega-3 fatty acid minimum, and 100 parts per million of carotene minimum. So I use this for crickets, dubia roaches, and superworms. Mealworms, however, die a little bit quicker on this diet than a gut-loading diet should kill them. And surprisingly, they do better, not only in terms of living a little bit longer, but in terms of how much they increase in calcium on the high-calcium cricket diet, which I don't sort of understand. Like, the high-calcium cricket diet has more calcium than the Better Bug gut-loading diet. And then the high-calcium cricket diet, ironically, does not increase calcium as well as the Better Bug gut-loading diet does for crickets. And it doesn't increase calcium for superworms as well as the Better Bug gut-loading diet does for superworms either. And that's another study I promise I will post in the description to show you what I mean. And again, Mazuri will do what I like about them the most, and that is have a full nutrient analysis. So, 12,750 international units per kilogram of vitamin A, 2,432 international units per kilogram of vitamin D3, 204 international units per kilogram of vitamin E, and 120 parts per million of beta-carotene. So on the back of this, it says 15,000 international units per kilogram of vitamin A, and then 100 parts per million of beta-carotene. What I'm thinking is that they calculated how much preformed vitamin A would be produced from the beta-carotene, and then just added the processed beta-carotene and preformed vitamin A all together, and maybe that's how they got 15,000 international units per kilogram of vitamin A on their bag, but not here on their nutrient analysis. Now for my gut loading methods, I take 2 or 4 of the feeder insects out from their main colonies and put them into a separate container with only a wet paper towel for moisture, and I give them a little bit of one of these gut loading diets. I try to avoid using produce because gut loading diets taste bad to them, and they will choose produce over the gut loading diets, and this will interfere with my attempt to increase their nutrients. For hornworms, I either gel up some Rapashi Super Load or get some agar-agar flakes and gel up some Better Bug gut loading diet. For silkworms, however, I haven't tried gut loading them because I wanted to see if Asia would eat them before I put any effort into gut loading them, and she still hasn't accepted them. So, yeah. But if she ever does accept them, I'm gonna try gut loading them with Rapashi Super Load mixed with their silkworm chow. So I gut load for 48 hours. Anytime past 48 hours, a gut loading diet's effect on the feeder insect will typically just decrease. So it's like a curve. Like you have a time period. Like you have that climax where calcium and vitamin A, D, and E is at its highest, but once you get past 48 hours, it begins to just decline over time. The Zukudla Cricket Max, however, it's going to maintain minimum calcium, vitamin A, vitamin D3, vitamin E levels for 4 days. So it still does have that time where like just vitamins are at its peak, vitamins and minerals are at its peak, and then it just goes down. However, it's going to just maintain that high amount of calcium, vitamin A, D, and E for 2 more days, unlike the other gut loading diets. That's how I feed and gut load my feeder insects. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe, and see you guys in my next video.